What if I told you that at 60, your brain could actually be sharper than it was at 40? We often accept memory decline as an unavoidable part of aging, as if every wrinkle on the skin means another neuron connection fades away. But groundbreaking research is painting a different picture. There are certain foods that can reignite those pathways in the brain, helping neurons communicate more smoothly, like slipping on a brand new pair of glasses for your mind, suddenly making everything crystal clear. Today, I will take you through 10 science-backed superfoods that not only slow down the clock of aging, but even nudge its hands gently in the other direction. The surprising part, many of them might already be sitting quietly in your kitchen, tucked away in a cabinet, resting in the fridge, or right there on your dining table. They are within reach, yet so often we use them the wrong way, missing out on their greatest benefits. With just a few small adjustments, how you prepare them, the order you prioritize them, the habits you repeat, you can feel the difference in your mind, staying alert longer, focusing deeper, and experiencing that refreshing clarity, as if a breeze of fresh air has swept through your thoughts. This is not a rosy promise. It is a roadmap you can begin with your very next meal. If you have ever worried it is too late to make a change, let the next few minutes prove the opposite. Open your pantry, open your curiosity, and join me as we uncover 10 familiar yet powerful choices, not just to live longer, but to live sharper, more present, and fully yourself. 1. Fatty fish. Imagine standing in your kitchen, opening the fridge, and spotting a piece of salmon resting there like a quiet invitation. Most people might think, as long as it is light on the stomach, it is fine. But what if I told you that same piece of fish could reach directly into your memory center, like adding oil to the gears of your neural connections? Would you pause for a moment longer? After 60, the brain does not close its door to sharpness. The key lies in how we nourish it. And the magic begins with omega-3 fats found in fatty fish, such as salmon, mackerel, and sardines, the delicate building blocks that form the walls of nerve cells and help neurons whisper more smoothly to each other. In the gray matter of the brain, where decisions, memories, and emotions are crafted, DHA works like a silent architect, reinforcing the structure so that signals pass more efficiently across synapses. It also calms inflammatory pathways, cooling down the hidden fire of cytokines that smolder with time and accelerate brain aging. Alongside DHA, EPA tends to the blood vessels that feed the brain, ensuring flow remains steady to the very top, while easing oxidative stress, the slow erosion that chips away at clarity day by day. When the foundation is strong, the house of memory stands taller against the storms of age. You may ask, is this just a beautiful theory, or has it been proven? Long-term evidence shows a very real picture. In people with higher blood levels of DHA and EPA, the hippocampus, the brain's memory library, tends to be larger, and memory decline slows. In groups tracked beyond 60, when omega-3 levels remain healthy, recall and processing speed improve, in part because the brain shrinks less and functions more efficiently. Even when memory has already begun to falter, adding DHA for about a year can increase hippocampal volume, a direct signal in favor of recall. And this is not just confined to labs. In real life, communities with fish-rich diets, like those in the Mediterranean or Japan, consistently show slower cognitive aging, as if they walk the same slope of time but do not slide down as quickly as the rest. So, what can you do in your kitchen today? Let fatty fish make a regular appearance on your table several times a week. A portion of salmon the size of your palm, about 100 to 150 grams, delivers around 1.5 to 2 grams of DHA and EPA, a nourishing dose your brain will silently thank you for. How you prepare it matters too. Grilling, lightly pan-searing, or cooking it just right preserves more nutrients than deep frying. And if fish is not your closest friend, consider fish oil or algae-derived DHA alternate routes that still reach the same destination, though whole foods bring added gifts like vitamin D and selenium, allies that strengthen brain health. The secret is not in one dramatic change, but in steady rhythm. Over the years, data show that this steady pattern tightens the brakes on memory loss, sometimes delaying the decline you would otherwise face much sooner. And the benefits stretch beyond memory. When oxidative stress eases, when blood vessels rejoice in smoother flow, the brain becomes more resilient to new challenges. This is cognitive flexibility, the ability to keep learning even with silver hair. Emotions lighten too, becoming steadier. Many older adults report that regular fish intake leaves their moods less likely to dip into dark valleys, a connection observed time and again in those who embrace omega-3. Think of tonight's fish dinner as a quiet but powerful habit placed in exactly the right spot, not loud, not complicated, but strong enough to gently turn back the clock of aging in silence. You do not need to change everything, just change consistently. Every time you place fish on the pan, you are laying another brick in the bridge toward a clearer, steadier mind, and a version of yourself with greater independence in the years ahead. 2. Dark leafy greens. Most of us still think of greens as nothing more than fiber for digestion, and then we brush them aside. But what if those dark leafy greens were quietly doing something inside your brain, soothing the slow fire of inflammation, patching up the insulating coat around nerve fibers, protecting memory against the storm of aging? Would you be willing to let them onto your plate with a new role? After 60, sharpness and speed of mind are not just a matter of luck. How we feed the brain each day shapes so much of the outcome. Inside every leaf of kale, spinach, or collards is a symphony of nutrients working in harmony: vitamin K, lutein, folate, and beta-carotene. Vitamin K acts like a skilled wire insulator, driving sphingolipid metabolism to build the myelin sheath that wraps nerve fibers, keeping signals fast, smooth, and clear. Lutein behaves like an antioxidant shield, settling deep in brain tissue to absorb the relentless arrows of free radicals over time. When that shield holds, the areas responsible for memory and executive function erode less quickly. Folate works quietly to support neurotransmitter synthesis and repair tiny DNA errors that, if left unchecked, can become grains of sand grinding the gears of cognition. Beta-carotene stands beside, neutralizing free radicals, preventing the chain reactions that can tip us faster down the slope of decline. You might ask, that is the mechanism, but what about real life? When scientists tracked older adults whose diets emphasized leafy greens, they found differences too striking to ignore. In one study at a renowned medical school, those who ate just over one serving of leafy greens daily performed cognitively as though they were at least a decade younger, a gap not explained by chance. Memory tasks and processing speed tests revealed smoother performance, as if the brain no longer had to wade through the mud of inflammation and oxidative stress. In a long-term project in Chicago, daily leafy green intake was tied to preserving overall cognitive ability from working memory to language skills. And when eating patterns focused steadily on this food group, the risk of degenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's dropped to a level every family would want to take seriously. So, what does this mean for your kitchen today? Start with one simple, steady step: 1 cup of dark leafy greens each day. Sometimes raw, tossed into a light salad. Sometimes lightly steamed, finished with a drizzle of olive oil to unlock lutein absorption. Sometimes blended with fruit into a refreshing smoothie. Keep your palate curious. Rotate kale, spinach, collards, or even Swiss chard if you enjoy experimenting, since each brings a slightly different spectrum of micronutrients, complementing one another like instruments in the same orchestra. And if daily trips to the market are not practical, frozen greens preserve most of their value, a budget-friendly shortcut, without losing the benefit. The goal is simply to welcome deep greens onto your plate several times each week. The more consistent the rhythm, the more your brain recognizes the familiar nourishment and responds with steadier clarity. And the benefits of leafy greens extend beyond memory. As inflammation subsides and circulation is supported by folate, blood flow to the brain becomes calmer and more efficient, an indirect but vital lift to long-term sharpness. Each day, the antioxidant defenses reinforce a cleaner cellular environment where neurons can fire with precision that age alone cannot erode. If you carry one image, let it be this: polishing the worn pathways in your brain with deep green leaves, meal by meal, just a little at a time, so that the steps of memory and focus no longer stumble. You do not need to change your entire diet overnight, you only need to change consistently. Beginning with your very next meal, add a handful of dark leafy greens and a spoonful of good oil, then repeat. It is a small decision, but one that quietly nudges the hands of time in your favor. 3. Berries. We usually think of berries as a sweet little dessert, a pleasant bite to brighten the palate, and then we move on. But what if that deep blue-purple hue is more than beauty? What if it is a signal of compounds that can actually slow the ticking clock of aging in your brain? Would you stop and look again? After 60, what worries us most is often not the wrinkles on our skin, but those foggy moments when memory slips away. And surprisingly, it is flavonoids, especially anthocyanins, that hold the lantern to guide us back toward clarity. When spoonfuls of berries enter your body, anthocyanins do far more than deliver a gentle sweetness. They act like silent guardians, quenching inflammation, disarming oxidative stress, and weaving into brain tissue to improve the quality of conversations between neurons. Most striking of all, they spark the process of cellular housekeeping, autophagy, clearing away toxic proteins like amyloid beta, long tied to age-related memory loss. At the same time, flavonoids raise levels of BDNF, the brain's own growth factor, encouraging new connections to sprout, old synapses to renew, and resilience to grow stronger. Your hippocampus, the memory hub of the brain, is tended like a freshly organized library. Shelves aligned, aisles brightened, every book easier to find. You might ask, it sounds convincing, but does it happen in real life? When older adults added blueberries to their daily routine for just a few months, memory tests and task-switching challenges showed clear improvement. Researchers link this to smoother blood flow to the brain and lower oxidative stress. Longer-term studies reveal that eating berries weekly can delay cognitive decline by years, enough time to finish telling family stories, recall the names of old friends, or master a new skill. In focused trials with wild blueberry juice, the hippocampus lit up with gains in word recall and paired association memory, a direct trace of a brain being supported. Pulling the evidence together, the pattern is clear. Berries especially nurture contextual memory, the kind that lets us place the right person, the right event, at the right moment in life. So what small step can you take today? Add half a cup, about 75 grams of blueberries, or a berry mix to your daily meals. Fresh or frozen makes little difference. The flavonoids remain. What matters most is consistency. Stir them into yogurt, scatter them over your morning oats, or blend them into a refreshing smoothie, and each day your brain receives a steady signal of nourishment. For variety, strawberries or black raspberries bring similar benefits, keeping the habit enjoyable without losing effectiveness. If you want to go further, extracts or blueberry powder can help, though whole berries also provide fiber and valuable micronutrients. Even if life only allows you a serving once a week, large-scale studies still suggest measurable protection at that modest frequency. And there is more to love. These little fruits are kind to your blood sugar. Their low glycemic index keeps mental energy steady, avoiding the spikes and crashes that leave the mind unsettled. Their anti-inflammatory and neuroprotective effects ripple out to mood and heart health, two systems that quietly walk hand in hand with cognitive longevity. If you need an image to carry with you, picture scattering tiny blue-purple stones along the pathway into your memory. A little more each day, smoothing the ground, steadying your steps of focus, and making the joy of recall easier. You do not need to transform your entire diet overnight. You only need a handful of berries, repeated. It is a gentle reminder that your brain can still learn, remember, and shine even as age knocks softly at the door. 4. Nuts and legumes. There is a small habit your brain will thank you for years from now. Swap that impulsive snack for a handful of nuts, and let beans, lentils, and legumes find their way into your regular meals. I once thought of nuts as just something to munch on, and beans as nothing more than a reminder of my mother's stew pot. But the deeper I looked, the more I realized these are not side dishes. They are like a compact toolkit that shows up right when you need it. Healthy fats, antioxidants, and the B vitamin family working together to slow the rhythm of brain aging and quietly restore sharpness to memory, steady, unassuming, and effective. Among nuts, walnuts stand out as engineers, supplying ALA, plant-based omega-3 that can be converted into DHA and EPA, compounds deeply tied to neuron health. With consistent ALA, chronic inflammatory pathways are subdued, nerve cell membranes stay supple, and signals travel with clarity. At the same time, the rich vitamin E found in many nuts forms a shield around those membranes, protecting them from the storm of oxidative stress that intensifies with age. On the legume side, the B vitamin group fine-tunes metabolism, synthesizing neurotransmitters, fueling brain cells, and most importantly, regulating homocysteine, a biomarker that, when elevated, can increase the risk of cognitive decline. Together, nuts and legumes create a nutritional alliance. Good fats enhance micronutrient absorption, fiber feeds the gut microbiome, and the gut-brain axis sends more positive signals back to the mind. If you want proof that such a small change is worth it, look to the long-term studies. In the WAHA program, older adults who ate walnuts daily for 1 to 2 years showed lower markers of oxidative stress, with the strongest cognitive benefits in those at higher risk. In lifestyle studies, when the Mediterranean diet was boosted with nuts, randomized trials recorded memory improvements and additive effect rather than a single stroke. Large observational data from Australia also found that people who regularly consumed nuts and legumes performed better on tests of memory, processing speed, and executive function. Even simply replacing processed meats with these options was associated with a double-digit reduction in dementia risk, a figure that makes us question the true cost of convenience foods. Over longer timelines, those who kept this habit showed signs of slower brain aging, as if you were gently turning down the speed of cognitive decline. How can you weave this habit into a busy life without feeling burdened? Begin simply, a small handful, the size of your palm of walnuts or mixed nuts daily, and welcome beans like lentils or chickpeas into your main meals a few times each week. Nuts can be sprinkled over salads or stirred into yogurt. Beans can enrich soups, stews, or even replace part of the meat in familiar dishes. Lightly toasting nuts brings out flavor while keeping nutrients intact. Once the rhythm becomes second nature, aim for multiple encounters with nuts every week, and several meals featuring legumes, not perfect, just consistent. The key is to make it instinctive. Your hand automatically reaches for the jar of nuts during an afternoon slump. You automatically add half a cup of beans to a simmering stew because it has become habit, and the benefits extend well beyond memory scores. When inflammation and oxidative stress are dialed down and blood vessels are cared for, cardiovascular health improves, an essential safeguard against vascular-related forms of dementia. Meanwhile, abundant fiber nourishes a diverse gut microbiome, sending uplifting signals along the gut-brain axis to support mood and alertness. If you need an image to carry with you, think of nuts and legumes as a retirement savings plan for your brain. Contribute a little each day, and soon the compounded interest of stability, clarity, and resilience speaks for itself. Start today, a handful of nuts instead of a pastry, a scoop of lentils added to your pot, and let these quiet, steady changes accumulate into a strong shield for your brain in the decades ahead. 5. Whole grains. I remember so many afternoons when hunger crept in and my mind spun out of control, like a clock hand twitching wildly after a slice of white bread and a rushed cup of coffee. That restless feeling was not just in my stomach, it was in my head. Focus slipped, words escaped me. Then came one small change that quietly opened another door. Swapping the white bread for a warm bowl of oats, trading the evening white rice for nutty brown rice, and occasionally tossing quinoa into a salad. What followed was not loud or dramatic. Energy stayed steadier. My mind no longer lurched up and down, and in the evening, memory seemed more cooperative, sorting the day's details neatly into place. Through the lens of science, this story is crystal clear. The brain needs sugar to function, but what it truly needs is a steady stream, not a flood that rises and then drains away. Whole grains, with their intact bran and germ, release energy slowly. That steadiness helps prevent sharp spikes in blood sugar that trigger oxidative stress and tiny scratches on neurons. When blood sugar flows evenly, the brain is not battered by swings, and neural connections hold stronger over the years. Long-term studies in older adults consistently show the same picture. Those who embrace whole grains age cognitively at a slower pace, as if their minds are several years younger than their birth certificates suggest. The reason goes beyond blood sugar. The abundant fiber in whole grains nourishes a diverse gut microbiome, which in turn ferments and produces short-chain fatty acids, tiny letters, that can cross the blood-brain barrier. Once they arrive, they encourage the brain to form and refresh connections while dialing down silent inflammation. Imagine signal pathways being paved with new gravel, smoother, less muddy, while the hippocampus, the memory center, stays better preserved with age. When whole grains become a daily priority, studies of healthy eating patterns reveal lower dementia risk, partly thanks to the B vitamins in grains fueling cellular energy factories and supporting neurotransmitter production. There is also a quieter gift. When you shift from refined white starches to whole grains, markers of systemic inflammation tend to fall. Inflammation is not just swollen joints. In the brain, it is a headwind that leaves the ship of memory exhausted. Reducing it is like removing stones from the bow. At the same time, the gut microbiome shifts toward a healthier balance, a change that aligns with better results on tests of attention, processing speed, and learning capacity. It is as if all the pieces click together: stable blood sugar, calmer inflammation, a thriving microbiome, and a brain that endures. If you wonder where to start, think simple: a breakfast of warm-cooked oats, topped with nuts or berries. A dinner with a modest serving of brown rice. Another day, a quinoa mix with vegetables and beans to boost fiber. Choose the least refined versions you can, so the bran and germ, the homes of most micronutrients, remain. Pairing them with vegetables and legumes doubles the benefit for the gut-brain axis. On busy days, pre-cooked packs or whole grain bread make a practical backup. The true value is not perfection in any single meal, but rhythm over months and years. That consistency, over time, becomes a soft but resilient armor for memory. And you will notice one more reward: the heart beats more steadily, and when blood vessels are protected, the brain receives a second shield against the aftermath of strokes. Mood and energy flatten out into smoother lines, no longer pulled into the roller coaster ride of refined starches. This is not magic, it is the physics of choice. Trading what is white and fast for what is brown, coarse, and slow. Today, if you want to gift your future self something lasting, start with the whole grain. A warm bowl in the morning, a serving of nutty rice at dinner, repeat. And let time prove that small steps, taken in the right direction, can quietly slow the clock of aging. 6. Green tea. There is a small habit that requires no calorie counting, no measuring, yet it reaches straight into the brightness of your mind. Instead of rushing with a strong coffee and a pastry, you take a few minutes for a cup of green tea. I know the feeling of morning fog, the brain slow to open, thoughts difficult to connect, the heart racing from caffeine. But when I switched to green tea, the difference was not a noisy buzz, it was a calm alertness. That is when L-theanine and catechins in tea begin their work. Focus emerges without the jitters, the mind feels tidy, as if the folds of the brain had been gently smoothed out. The challenge after 60 is not just the memory that occasionally slips, but the constant pressure of inflammation and oxidative stress wearing down neurons year after year. Green tea goes straight to those roots. L-theanine elevates alpha brain waves, the rhythm of relaxed alertness, allowing you to unwind without drowsiness, sustaining attention for small but precise tasks. At the same time, catechins like EGCG sweep away free radicals and reduce neuroinflammation, lessening the microscopic scratches that degrade neural networks. When L-theanine pairs with the modest natural caffeine in tea, the advantage is striking: crisp clarity, steadier hands, and better recognition and recall compared to caffeine alone. You may wonder, can one daily drink truly make a difference? In older adults who maintain green tea daily, measures of working memory and executive function often improve. In some follow-ups, regular tea drinkers report fewer memory troubles, a gap large enough to make everyday life feel smoother. On a community scale, populations that treat green tea as a daily ritual show lower risks of cognitive decline, which scientists attribute to polyphenols. They buffer DNA damage, support telomere strength, the protective caps at the ends of chromosomes, and activate neurons in ways that preserve brain flexibility. In other words, green tea is not just about alertness today, it quietly equips the brain with endurance for the years ahead. Fortunately, the solution is concrete and simple. Each morning or early afternoon, enjoy 1 to 2 cups, about 200 to 400 milliliters, to capture the full benefit of alertness without tipping into restlessness. If possible, choose quality loose leaves or matcha, where catechin content is richer. That way, each sip carries more nutrient density. Let the tea's natural sweetness speak, rather than adding sugar, since excess sugar fuels inflammation and undermines brain protection. Sensitive to caffeine? Decaffeinated green tea still retains most of its L-theanine and catechins, meaning you still gain calm focus and an anti-inflammatory shield without losing sleep. There is another ripple effect we often overlook. As polyphenols reduce systemic inflammation and improve metabolic markers, the risk of chronic disease falls, and the brain's blood vessels run more smoothly. A backline support, crucial for memory and concentration. Emotions benefit too. A calm, clear state helps you handle stress more gently, without spiraling into tense muscles, pounding heart, and tangled thoughts. Think of green tea as a subtle companion. It does not make loud promises, but it steadily builds a margin of safety for your brain, from the small shocks of daily life to the greater challenges of aging. And because every lasting change begins with one small act, today you only need to do this. Set a pot of tea on the table, breathe deeply, and sip slowly, as if resetting your rhythm. Repeat tomorrow. Repeat next week. As consistency accumulates, you will find yourself more alert, more composed, and memory once thought to be fading quietly shining again. Green tea is not magic, it is a gentle discipline, and the brain at any age knows how to be grateful for it. 7. Dark chocolate. There is a familiar moment that comes almost every evening. We crave something sweet to soften the fatigue of the day, then hesitate, worried that sugar will weigh down the mind and thicken the waistline. The problem is not the craving, but the choice. If the day ends with a few squares of true dark chocolate, the kind with a high cacao content and very little sugar, it is no longer just dessert. It becomes a small, refined ritual, sending a gentle signal straight to the brain: calm down, focus, and prepare to remember what matters. After 60, what unsettles us is not only when a familiar name slips suddenly from memory, but also the quiet haze, the sluggishness we cannot quite define. Dark chocolate steps into that space with the help of a group of compounds called flavonoids. You can imagine flavonoids as traffic controllers for the microhighways of the brain. They help blood vessels relax and open, so blood carrying oxygen and nutrients flows more smoothly to the areas of focus and memory. When the brain's expressways widen, mental energy no longer stalls. The mind receives the fuel it needs to work clearly, without strain. But the benefits go beyond circulation. In the hippocampus, the brain's memory vault, flavonoids support the creation and renewal of neural connections, as if the library gained new shelves and brighter aisles. Clinical trials show that when older adults sustain adequate flavonol intake each day, memory and thinking improve significantly. Some studies even find that within just a few hours, attention and reaction speed sharpen, a fast but gentle effect you can feel in the same afternoon. Over longer spans, keeping flavanol-rich chocolate as a steady habit for months has been linked to restoring memory performance in middle-aged and older adults, a quiet but real difference when recalling an appointment, locating your keys, or retelling a family story. In postmenopausal women, high flavanol chocolate has even been shown to improve endothelial function in blood vessels, the very foundation for steady, resilient blood flow to the brain. At the same time, cacao's antioxidants soothe microdamage caused by free radicals, laying a thin protective shield over neuronal membranes, slowing the footsteps of aging. The solution is precise and delicious. Each day, treat yourself to a small portion, about 30 to 45 grams of dark chocolate that is at least 70% cacao. Choose options with minimal sugar to prioritize flavonols. That gentle bitterness is the signal of the very compounds you seek. Enjoy it on its own as a reward, or pair it with a handful of nuts or a few berries for a more complete nutritional picture. The combination enhances both satisfaction and brain support. What matters most is not a single perfect day, but rhythm, a consistent daily moment of real dark chocolate, repeated over weeks, where research shows the benefits accumulate and grow stronger. There is also a quiet bonus worth noting. When blood flow to the brain is healthier and vessels more flexible, the risk of vascular-related cognitive problems drops. Mood also lifts. Thanks to favorable shifts in neurotransmitters, you feel lighter, less irritable, and mentally tidy enough to handle the day's small challenges. Of course, this is not a license to indulge without limit. Dark chocolate is a precision tool. Small doses, consistent, high quality. Think of each square as a step of brain care, both pleasure and therapy. Tonight, if you face the choice between a glossy, sugar-heavy sweet and a rich bar of true dark chocolate, choose the latter. Sit down for a few minutes, sip some tea or warm water, and let the bittersweet taste remind you that your brain can remain clear, agile, and capable of learning new things even as age knocks softly at the door. 8. Citrus fruits. How many times have you walked past the fruit stand, looked at those shiny oranges, and thought, they look nice, but do they really do anything for memory? That thought is common, and it is exactly how we miss a neural shield sitting right within reach. After 60, what unsettles us is not only forgetting a neighbor's name, but the lingering brain fog, the slowing of processing speed, the fragile focus. At the root of all this is oxidative stress and low-grade inflammation eroding neurons year after year. Oranges, grapefruits, and their citrus cousins go straight to that root in a way that is both simple and sophisticated. Abundant vitamin C and flavonoids, especially hesperidin, working together like two hands holding the same door, extinguishing inflammation and keeping the brain's communication lines running smoothly. Vitamin C acts like a firefighting team that arrives exactly when free radicals flare up, neutralizing them before they scratch and scar neuronal membranes. When the haze of oxidative stress clears, the signals flowing between synapses become less noisy, and clarity feels like a window wiped clean. On the next line of defense, flavonoids led by hesperidin reinforce the brain's own antioxidant system, protect neuron structure, and elevate the quality of their conversations. They also support vasodilation, improving blood flow to the brain, ensuring oxygen and nutrients are delivered precisely where and when they are needed, especially in regions vital for focus, planning, and executive function. That is why trials show that citrus intake is linked with significant improvements in general cognition and executive performance in just a few weeks. Behind the scenes, blood flow to the brain runs smoother and inflammation markers fall. If you are still wondering, how much is enough each day? Remember this. A single serving of citrus can exceed the daily need for vitamin C, acting like a boost to the brain's antioxidant system. Looking further ahead, community studies consistently show that people who eat citrus regularly have a significantly lower risk of cognitive decline, a pattern repeated across many populations. And it is not just observation. Controlled studies with pure orange juice over several weeks have recorded measurable improvements in focus and processing, exactly what we expect when blood flow is supported and neuroinflammation settles down. On the cellular level, vitamin C also enhances the activity of gatekeeper enzymes like superoxide dismutase and catalase tireless workers that protect neurons from the wear of time. The way to turn this knowledge into habit is simple. Let oranges, tangerines, and grapefruits appear steadily in your week. A few times is enough for your brain to recognize the rhythm of nourishment. Each time, a modest serving, a medium orange, or half a grapefruit works well. Fresh fruit is always best. On busy days, pure juice can stand in, as long as you keep it moderate to avoid blood sugar spikes. Pair it with a handful of nuts or a light protein, and you have a balanced snack that keeps mental energy stable rather than flaring and fading. What matters most is not eating a lot in one day, but the steady cadence over weeks and months, the rhythm that long-term research suggests builds into a meaningful shield for memory. And there is a quiet but precious bonus. When blood vessels are stronger and circulation steadier, the heart is better protected, and the brain gains an extra safeguard against vascular forms of cognitive decline. Citrus has the special advantage of being easy to eat, easy to remember. Its bright, fresh aroma draws you back, and that repetition is the true key. So tonight, if you want a small action that empowers your future, peel an orange, eat it slowly, and let the sweet tang awaken your senses. Let it remind you that your brain can feel younger than your age as long as you nourish it the right way, bite by bite, steadily, patiently. 9. Low-fat dairy. At midday, after a whirlwind of a morning, many people describe their minds as if wrapped in cotton, hard to focus, quick to snap, energy falling apart in scattered pieces. I used to feel that way too until I added a gentle habit, a cup of low-fat Greek yogurt with live cultures. The feeling was as if someone had smoothed out the creases in my head, the heartbeat steadied, thoughts lined up more clearly, and I had the calm focus to handle small but precise tasks. What is fascinating is that the switch was not sugar or sweeteners, but the tiny living organisms in the gut and the way they talk to the brain along a direct line called the gut-brain axis. The deeper issue of aging is not only forgetting an old friend's name, but the persistent inflammation and misfiring in neural circuits that cast a fog over the mind. Low-fat Greek yogurt with live cultures goes straight to that weak point. The probiotics in yogurt help rearrange the garden of the gut microbiome, so that community produces steady supplies of compounds like serotonin, closely tied to calmness and clarity, as well as short-chain fatty acids that lower inflammation. When the microbiome is balanced, positive signals travel along the vagus nerve, the highway between gut and brain, giving executive and memory centers a new lift. You plan more cleanly, switch tasks more smoothly, and react to emotions with less flare-up. This is not only a subjective feeling, lab measurements show the same pattern. In older adults, the habit of eating probiotic-rich yogurt is linked to progress in executive function tests and reduced stress, fitting perfectly with the logic of the gut-brain axis. In those with early signs of decline, adding yogurt into daily meals helps slow the slide. Cognitive scores inch upward as neuroinflammation cools. When multiple studies are pooled, the picture becomes clearer. Probiotics lower inflammatory markers like hsCRP, meaning the body runs cooler, and the brain, in turn, resists the erosion of time more effectively. Looking further into long-term follow-ups, people who stick with low-fat choices like Greek yogurt often descend the slope of cognitive decline more slowly. Clarity lasts longer, as if each step were cushioned with an extra layer of safety. The solution is not complicated. Each day, a small bowl-sized cup of low-fat Greek yogurt with live cultures is enough to send the message, stay calm, stay clear. Pair it with berries in the morning for added neuroprotective compounds, or sprinkle in nuts for healthy fats. The combination makes a snack that is both delicious and synergistic for the brain. Choose unsweetened versions. The natural tang is the good sign that you are feeding the gut-brain axis, not spiking blood sugar like a roller coaster. If you live by a weekly rhythm, aim to repeat this habit several times across 7 days. It is consistency that creates change, not a single perfect serving followed by neglect. There is one small reminder I keep for myself. Yogurt is only a precision tool when live cultures are the main character, and sugar or flavoring stay in supporting roles. When you strip away excess sugar, probiotics can fully do their job, regulating immunity, sending natural calming signals, and restoring elasticity to neural networks. And because the body is a unified system, improvements in inflammation, immunity, and mood loop back to support memory, like strengthening the foundation so the whole house stands steady against the wind. If tonight you want to try one small change with big leverage, stock your fridge with a few cups of low-fat Greek yogurt with live cultures. When hunger creeps in between meals, when your thoughts start to tangle, or when you want a dessert without regret, simply take one out, add a handful of berries or nuts, and eat slowly. Repeat tomorrow. Repeat next week. Then you will notice, no grand miracle is needed, just steady, precise nourishment, and your brain can be clearer and calmer, even as age knocks softly at the door. 10. Mushrooms or seaweed. I like to think of the brain as a weathered harbor. For ships to arrive safely, sometimes it needs both the cool breeze from the forest and the salty wind of the sea. Mushrooms and seaweed are exactly those two breezes, one from damp wood after rain, the other from the foaming waves offshore, delivering unique signals of restoration to the brain. What surprises many people is how quiet they are. They do not shout. They work silently, but in the right places, nourishing neurons, fighting chronic inflammation, and supporting memory when we begin to stumble over the small details of daily life. In the world of mushrooms, lion's mane stands out as a fascinating exception. Its compounds stimulate nerve growth factor, like reopening repair shops in the brain, where communication wires are welded and polished so signals run more smoothly. This is not just folklore. In adults aged 50 to 80 with mild cognitive decline, taking a modest daily dose of lion's mane for 4 months nudged their cognitive scores upward, especially in calculation and attention. More broadly, when mushrooms appear regularly in the diet, the slowing of cognitive decline becomes more apparent. Their anti-inflammatory effects and mood support lighten mental heaviness and make focus more agile. Seaweed: thin sheets of nori, dark ribbons of wakame, carries a rich parcel, folate, magnesium, iodine, and unique compounds like fucoidan. The epidemiological picture in communities devoted to seaweed, especially in Japan and long-lived regions like Okinawa, repeats a striking message. Steady seaweed habits are linked to less brain shrinkage with age and lower dementia risk, as if blood vessels and neural tissue were wrapped in extra layers of protection. Fucoidan, along with fluorotannins, acts directly on cellular aging pathways, slowing erosion, while the synergy of micronutrients supports a metabolic foundation that keeps memory and alertness resilient. The key, as always, is rhythm, not a one-time performance. If you want these forest and sea foods to become a steady track for your brain, let them appear several times a week in moderate amounts. 1 to 3 grams of lion's mane through powder, capsules, or stirred into a simple stir-fry, or a serving of seaweed in miso soup, a salad, or crisp roasted sheets. On busy days, mushroom powders or dried seaweed are convenient solutions. What matters is repetition. With consistency, the brain's repair shops have time to work, and protective layers have time to build. Of course, there is no magic wand that transforms everything overnight. But here is a positive warning worth carrying: do not expect instant miracles, expect endurance. When mushrooms and seaweed become habit, you are laying extra supply lines for the immune system, giving the heart another reason to beat smoothly, and when blood vessels are healthy, the brain gains a further shield against vascular-related decline. Imagine each meal as a small brushstroke sharpening the outlines of memory, each serving of mushrooms or seaweed as a gentle pull on the brake of aging slope. So tonight, if you stand between the same old choices, try a small turn. Swap the fried dish for a soup with a few strips of wakame. Trade the sugary dessert for some dark chocolate with a few pieces of dried mushrooms and a sprinkle of lion's mane if you already keep it at hand. Repeat tomorrow with a sushi roll wrapped in nori. Repeat next week with a stir-fry laced with mushrooms. You do not need perfection. You need reminders in your meals that the forest and the sea are still sending their breezes to this harbor so your brain can stay clear, flexible, and steady through every season of age. When you reach 60, the body does not need complicated miracles, it needs small, steady, and thoughtful choices each day. The 10 foods we have just explored are your toolkit to calm inflammation, nourish your cells, protect your heart, and most importantly, keep your brain sharp and flexible. You will notice deeper sleep, steadier energy, and a lighter spirit. Eating at this stage is not about deprivation or struggle, it is about living with comfort, confidence, and the freedom to keep doing what you love, with a clear mind and a body that quietly thanks you. If this video was helpful, please click like so YouTube knows you are interested, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss future episodes on nutrition, movement, and brain care in your golden years. And do not forget to share this video with your family and friends, because even one meal changed today can make a difference for many years to come. I would also love to hear from you. Out of these 10 foods, which one do you eat most often? Have you noticed any changes in your body or your mind? Leave a comment below so we can learn from one another and build a community that lives with joy, health, and purpose. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. I look forward to seeing you in the next video where we will continue unlocking small daily habits that strengthen both body and mind. And before you go, let me leave you with one gentle reminder. Age may add numbers, but quality of life grows from the choices you make today. Begin with your very next meal slowly, mindfully, and with love for yourself.